going past your own comfort zone definitely pushes you as an individual, makes you grow in tremendous ways that you may not be able to see it today, but in the future, you can look back on it like, wow, I did all of that.
In this episode, I talk with Phillip. Phillip is a veteran and former software engineer who quit his job in 2021 to invest in real estate full time. He's flipped and wholesaled over 130 properties. He also owns 13 single-family rentals and is a partner in a 41-unit multifamily property. We discuss how he started investing in real estate part-time and eventually how he was able to quit his job to invest in real estate full-time. And we dive deep into the mindset needed to succeed and the limitations that we put on ourselves. And when we open up those limitations, we're really able to grow. I hope you enjoy this episode. Now onto the show. How you doing, Phillip?
Doing good, man. How are you, Chris?
Great. Happy Friday. Thanks for coming on. Enjoyed chatting with you a few weeks ago on what you're doing. So really excited to break down your business and some of your beginnings on this show. So thanks for coming on. And I want to really start this off because your transition into real estate is a kind of a path that most people take, because it is a hard business unless you're just going straight in and out of college or out of school, and working for a company or being an agent or joining a team. It's difficult to just jump in full time. You went the part where you're working part time for a little while, and then you finally went full time. So, starting off, take me back to where you were working this part time. What sparked real estate in your background as you were like a software engineer, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Chris. So yeah, I'll take you guys back to when the inception moment happened. So I was getting out of the military and looking for new work, and I was parachute rigger, jump out of planes, very exciting stuff, and packing
Awesome.
parachutes. So it's fun times. I was in the Marine Corps, like I said. When I got out, that job didn't really transition very well to the civilian world. And so I went to a technical college, ECPI, like nothing special. Wanted to fast track my career to getting a paying job. So I studied software engineering, majored in that. And while I was in college, I also got an internship to do all that stuff. And so once I graduated, that internship became into a full-time position. And had a lot of fun in that job. It was never boring because there's always new problems to solve. So I really kind of enjoyed that aspect of that job. But once I became full-time, I kind of, one morning I was driving into work. I went to my cubicle and I had just an epiphany that hit me like a freight train. And what occurred to me was like I didn't want to be working for somebody else the next 20, 30, 40 years or however long that might be, and solving their problems, making them more of a wealthy individuals while I um still am doing the same thing essentially. Now, there are things that you can do to climb the corporate ladder. I'm not saying anything against it, but for me, it just wasn't what, drove me. Didn't have like any passion in doing it after just realizing that. And so once I kind of got that epiphany, I started to do a lot of Googling, like every software engineer does out there solving a problem. And so I found out three different categories that are most likely recession proof in my mind. And those are like, food, we're never going to run out, or never, that business is never going to run out because we all need to eat. Clothing, we all need to be warmth, stay warm during the winters or whatever season you're in. And real estate, we all need a place to stay. So I figured that I'm a horrible cook, so like that was out of the window for
That
me.
one's out.
And horrible cook today still. And in fashion, I'm a horrible, like, I guess I have a horrible eye of design, so I'm not really good at making any clothes or even know where to start. And my mom, she's a single mom. She actually has a couple of rental properties herself, but never did so well in them. She would always tell me she would always lose money and whatnot every single year. Excuse me. And so I figured that would be a good place to start because I have some sort of, I guess, foundation when it came to real estate. My mom kind of already did it already, so I can kind of leverage her knowledge. And so one thing led to another. I did a couple of Google searches and I came across Fortune Builder at the time. Me not knowing what Fortune Builder was, I just went ahead and went to their free seminars. That free seminar went to like $100 ticket to the next seminar, and then the next seminar was the upsell of like their premier package of like $30,000 to $40,000 of education. Now at the time, it was a very scary moment for me to put that much money into something that I had no idea that could or could not work. But after the day one seminar, my family and I went back and we kind of discussed it, and I gave it a very good deep thought. And what came to my mind when making that purchase was I could be going down the same path that I'm currently doing now. And I could always wonder, should I have bought that educational package?
Yeah.
Right. Um, and if it failed, so what? I can always go back to the same thing that I'm currently doing now. No biggie. Um, and if I did buy the package, what would my life look like? How would I grow? And would this actually help me to my end goal? And
And
so
how old were you at this time?
Oh, I was 26 years old.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I was young. Right now I'm 33. And so that whole, I guess, that decision tree put my decision in a very clear perspective. And so I went ahead and bit the bullet, and I paid like I think like 35 or $40,000 for education course, but
Were you
and
sweating when you pressed that button?
oh, I was actually sweating bullets. I actually didn't have all that money in my account. I had to put a small down payment on like $8,000 and then put the rest on credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I was literally looking at a pretty large sum of debt on credit cards, which is probably not a wise thing to do. But if you do it correctly, I opened a new credit card and I kind of did the zero interest for like a certain amount of months. And then that way that gave me some breathing room to kind of work and then pay off and then also study at the same time, and then making those strives to become better and better every day.
Yeah.
Fortune Builder is an online course with a very extensive amount of resources that explain the business from A to Z, more or less. And so that whole first year, it was a huge grind. I would go to work, and then after work, I would come back home and study. And then that's pretty much my whole week. But in between those study periods, if there were days that I could go to networking events, I would definitely go there, like REI meetup groups, because that was part of the curriculum. They would tell us to go out and meet, network, to put yourself out there, and really just to build as much individual like-minded people that you know in your network so you can create a business together. Now, for me, I'm actually an introvert. I never like going to networking groups. I kind of like I'm very fearful of them sometimes because it's just like a lot to take in. And so going past your own comfort zone definitely pushes you as an individual, makes you grow in tremendous ways that you may not be able to see it today, but in the future you can look back on it like, wow, I did all of that because of my why, my goal. And and I believe that all of that, um, your why will drive you. Like I'm sure everybody here knows, like why will drive a lot of individuals to success and to thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in a very similar situation. So, in college, I paid for my first guru course, if you will,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a job. I did have a credit card because they just send them to you when you're in college, and it was $1,500, which to me, like, I mean, it was like 30,000
Yeah.
at that time in my life, and that was oh, I wrestled with it, but yeah, on the card, and at that point, it was like, well, crap, I just got to believe everything he says and go out there and grind. It took 3 months. I finally got my first deal and paid off the card and then some. So,
Well, that's
um,
good.
Yeah, and I've done the 30,000. I mean, I've joined multiple masterminds over the years, so paid well over 30,000. So, it's not that it's a lot or it's not a lot. Ultimately, it's what are you going to make out of it? And then, of course, just quick disclosure, like do your due diligence on these
Yeah.
organizations that you're wanting to join. There's many good ones. There's also a lot of them out there that they're okay taking your money,
Mhm.
even if it's not right for you or if they're not able to fulfill what they're promising. I think the point is you were at a point in your life where you knew the current path you were on isn't the path you wanted to continue on forever. So you had to find another way, and you did find another way. At that point, it was okay. How do I get into this, and what do I need to do to start shifting tracks and get educated was the first thing, and
Yeah,
that's what you're doing at that point, right?
most definitely. And it wasn't as easy as it was for you for 3 months. It took me a whole year to get my first deal. And there were nights that I was doubting my own decisions. And that's like where a lot of, I mean, looking back on it now, it's funny that your mind tells you so many stories that I wasn't aware of seeing. So, like, if I had to tell a person that started today or my own self, um, what to look out for is yourself because you are your worst enemy. You can sabotage those thoughts that go through your head. If you're not aware of those thoughts, those stories, they can rule your life. And
Yeah.
so I would
And you
definitely,
start to question the line of obsession or
yeah,
delusion,
yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like that blurry line, like where does one end and the other begin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I think everybody has it as an entrepreneur. And also just, I mean, as humans too, as well. So like kind of how I deal with it today, I I write them down. I write these fictitious stories down and I observe them. I look at them, I'm like, is this real or is this fake? And if it's fake, I just kind of laugh at it because like, I had that thought in my head and it was like owning me.
Was that
Um,
something you started doing? I remember reading something like that in a book, and it recommended writing them down, and also recommended saying it out loud, recording it, and playing it back. And
Oh, I don't do it like that. I actually have a spreadsheet. I write down like where it happened, like the location, how it got triggered. So like what caused it,
mhm.
what time, what I was doing pretty much, and then
This is your
like the
engineer
actual
blood coming out.
yeah. Yeah. And the actual story that my brain facilitated. And I just take a look at it and I'm just like, yeah, that's not real. So it kind of it dismisses it and it all kind of advantages it away.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's good. I think it was David Goggins who was saying he plays it back so he could hear, and I could be wrong. Maybe it could be someone
yeah.
else, but he plays it back just so you can hear the
Oh,
bullshit story that you try to tell yourself. Because sometimes hearing, because we all hear it from other people, and
yeah.
then we're like, "Come on, man! Like you can totally do this."
Yeah.
But for ourselves, it's harder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is David Goggins. I think that you're correct on that one. I did read his new book, and that's part of his whole little mantra or his little ethos, which is just an amazing way to follow. I mean, honestly. Um, so like that's like one of my biggest learning lessons as I gone through my entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, people like higher levels, they harp on mindset, but like I guess as a person that's starting, you don't see how valuable the mindset is for your success because maybe you're starting out and you all you're worried about is like making income because that's what you need to do for your family
Yeah,
or for whatever.
yeah.
But the mindset is, I think, more important than that because that sets you up to make the big money.
It's 100% more important. It's like you have a framework of knowledge, and that's your limitation. Like
Yeah,
that's as far as you're going to be able to grow, and only when you can expand that framework, do you begin to start breaking boundaries or
yeah,
previously self-imposed boundaries. Tony Robbins kind of helped me, or is continued as I listen to him and go to events, help me
Uh,
with some of those. But it's crazy how much here's a good quote. I forget where it came. I think Keith Cunningham said it. But in any case, it was living hell would be getting at the end of your life and God saying, "Hey, this is how you could have lived, but this is how you chose. Like
uh,
this is what I had envisioned for you. This is what's happened." Do you really want that conversation?
yeah, you don't.
So, what was the point to where you decided, hey, it's time to give this a full go? Like we're done with the job thing.
Yeah. Um, so um, so kind of fast forward after the first year, like I got my first deal, and then like I landed five deals pretty much.
Yeah,
Very,
actually, yeah. Let's go back there. So
yeah.
it took a year, right, to get that first deal.
Took me a first year of just networking, grinding, studying, late nights. And
How'd
I
you
was
find it?
impatient. Yeah,
Like
I was impatient.
what marketing source?
That's the thing. Like I was so scattered brain that I was like doing half-ass marketing. I was like sending mailers, they all failed because I didn't do multiple rounds of mailers and I
Hmm.
didn't do follow-up. I would the only the only marketing thing that I had was like Craigslist, bandit signs, and going to networking groups because
Hmm.
I literally just spent my last like 40K pretty much and I'm trying to pay off this debt. So I was doing everything else that I could to generate leads. And um, what really got me my first deal was networking. I networked with local meetup RIA groups, my own fortune builder group that I actually bought into. And so a deal passed, another fortune builder student sent me a deal that they didn't want. It was a full gut rehab. It's probably not the first deal that I would recommend anybody because it was a vacant shell. It was built in 1900. It had no roof. It was a fire damaged property. Not not a good recommendation.
That's quite a learning experience.
Yeah. Um, I literally everything that happened to this property, like everything that could go wrong went wrong on this property, and I barely made it out. I broke even because the
You,
market saved me.
So you broke even in a
Yeah.
very risky, dangerous situation. But
Yeah.
on the plus side, the knowledge that you gain that you can't learn in books. I
Exactly.
mean, there's just no way any mastermind program or course or whatever can teach you what you just went through. That's the street knowledge. So that is vastly more valuable than everything else you did before.
Exactly.
While risky and yeah, you do have to be careful of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, you came out broke even, but
Yep.
now going forward, how long did it take you to get deal number two?
So deal number two came like as soon as I got that deal, maybe a month later. So I was
So
like,
a
yeah.
year to get deal number one, 30 days to get deal number
So,
two.
and then another deal came after, and then another deal came after. Within the span of like another 3 months, I got three more deals.
How much
And
did that do you attribute to confidence?
um I wouldn't say, well, confidence did contribute a little bit to it because of the knowledge that I spent day in and day out learning. Um, but it was more,
Confidence, yeah. I mean, in your ability to analyze a deal and then
yeah,
also translate that into sales negotiation conversations.
yeah. But all of these deals were wholesale deals to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, so these weren't like deals that I've done direct seller to.
Okay.
Um,
But do you feel like before deal number one, were you pitching other deals and you just didn't get them? Or that was
yeah,
the
I was
first
pitching
deal
other
you were all
deals.
in on? So
Yeah,
okay,
I
so
was
you
pitching.
were pitching other deals. It's just maybe you were being ultra conservative because you were scared.
That was part of it too as well, but I
Okay.
think the major part of it was that I didn't have good negotiation and
Yeah.
skills with the seller, and I
Yeah.
was also very petrified to talk to any sellers
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, you're dealing with wholesalers, which
Hmm.
obviously a much different conversation.
Yeah.
But I tell this to real estate agents too. Like when they get the first client, or whether you get your first flip or wholesale deal, it's just it does take longer to get that first one, but you always
Mhm.
find the deal number two, three, or four. It comes much faster because now you got a little confidence,
Yep.
whether it's obvious or not. That does permeate, but you also have the
Yeah.
experience, transaction. You know a little bit about what's going on.
Yep.
You're not a pro yet, but you're starting to get the hang of it, and that's how
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. It's funny how that works.
That is very true. That you make a really good point. And that kind of like looking back on it now, that kind of was what's happening. I got a little more confidence, it build up, like it kind of snowball effect. Um, and so, at the time I had like five renovations going at one time. And
Which
I
is
was in
insane for a new investor.
Yeah, it's insane. And three of those out of the five were full guts, which I do not recommend. And then a full-time job on top of that. So I was literally like a maniac at work. I was like trying to get all my work done as a software
Yeah.
engineer and
How was
then
your quality of
taking
sleep during that too?
and I was trying to maximize every break I had, everything that I had as far as time wise. And eventually that got me fired. uh,
Of course. Boss saw
yeah,
you slipping and was like, "Hey, look, you
yeah,
got to make a choice here," or he's like, "No, no, you're out."
yeah. He pretty much my current job, my first job fired me, and so and a lot of people would freak out, right? But I had so many things in the fire that I didn't have time to worry about getting another job. And so I went ahead and just finished the renovation. I think that was a blessing in disguise too. And then that helped me finish the other renovations. And then um, roughly about the third renovation, I started to look for another job. Um, and I landed another engineering job at this quarry aggregation. They sell rocks for like gravel for roads, which is a huge industry that did not know about. It's luck companies, and they're a billion-dollar family company that's been around for over 100 years, which is just here in Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia, roughly. Um, and they make about $1.5 million a day just selling gravel,
Jeez.
which is insane to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Just
for
selling
for
rocks.
dirt. Yeah, rock.
Yeah, it's insane.
See,
And
hey kids, like not all business has to be sexy. Like you can sell
exactly.
rocks and make
Yeah.
$1 billion.
I had a mind-blowing epiphany or experience with like just walking through their real estate and like just they would have a in their headquarters they would have like a TV saying how much money they make every hour. It's just insane. Um, so I took a little break after those five renovations because I was a little bit burnt out, and then I kind of reassessed my business at that time, and I found that like everybody else in the real estate industry, deal flow it was like my crux, like
Mhm.
where I have the most weakness in. And so, that led me to Google again. And so I end up finding Pace Morby in the sub two group. And I went ahead and joined another mentorship. And the key lesson to here is that even though you join one, mentorship group, you shouldn't always just be comfort or be stagnant in that one group. You should always go out and continue to build your network and continue to grow as an individual and gain more knowledge because um, it helps you become a better entrepreneur, it helps you
Yeah,
better
groups
father,
typically have their
whatever.
own personality, and
Yeah,
I mean, one, they can be very niche. They're not
they can.
all really niche, but they can be, and regardless, they're going to have their own culture, so they're going to have their own conversation piece and
Yeah,
theme, if you will. So getting outside of that is going to help expand growth because at some point you'll almost always outgrow a certain organization. At least you'll reach some point of limited returns
right.
for a group.
You mostly will. And I'm not saying anything bad about Fortune Builders, just like that group. It wasn't a very cohesive. It wasn't like a go-giver group per se. It's kind of like all for your own kind of deal.
Yeah.
Whereas Pace's group, I've experienced the totally opposite of that, where everybody's all about helping each other and help each other grow and expand. And Pace Morby is just a person that he's always giving to his students. And I've never met a mentor like that ever. And he's still giving. He's giving more value than what I gave him. So,
Yeah.
um, so with that new mentorship group, I actually found my next business partner, and he took me from zero rentals to pretty much 15 rentals in a matter of over 2 years, growing my net worth to significantly more than what it was before.
And
Um,
did you want rentals before that moment? Or is it something that he sparked in you like, hey, look, yeah, I need to start accumulating rentals?
no, actually, I've always wanted rentals, but I didn't have the knowledge or the money capital to acquire them, or the actual other knowledge of like buying rentals subject to,
Yeah.
which is
Which
assuming
which
people's
which
mortgage.
really is now not money, it's
Yeah,
knowledge.
it's
You
just
didn't have the
knowledge, right?
knowledge. And I
Yeah,
really want to stress this point because when I was reading your profile, um, that made me smile because you see a lot of wholesalers and flippers like they go do 100, 200, 500, and they don't really own anything. They don't
yeah,
own, and that's no different from a real estate agent that has done 1,000 transactions and the only home that they own is their own personal residence,
right.
or working a job
Yeah.
and the only asset you own is your 401k. Nothing wrong with that. It's just going to be really, really slow and difficult to build wealth.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, once you stop working, your W-2 job, income stops. You stop
Yeah.
working with clients, your commission like goes to zero. You stop wholesaling, income stops. Stop flipping, income stops. Stop buying rentals. Well, you still kind of have all the other rentals you bought.
Yeah.
It's not like 100% passive, like some people sell it as, but it is wealth building, and that is on your balance sheet, and that does look
Hmm.
good if you run your business right.
Exactly. So that's always been the goal because when I was 26, so kind of circling back in that age, I set a very ambitious goal at the time that I thought I wanted to become financially free by 35, meaning I want the passive income that is coming in every single month to cover my expenses so I don't have to worry about finances. But furthermore, I wanted to start a family by 35. And so I get to spend the time that I never got from my family, my parents, onto my children. So I actually want to spend all the moments that I have with my children, so I can raise them, so I can become a good father, their best friend, or whatever they need me to be. So that was my driving why, on why I even did all of this in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that I think that why I'm a firm believer of that why will drive you through some of the darkest times of your entrepreneur career that you'll face.
100% will.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, real estate's fun, sexy, exciting. Um, but having budget overruns on a gut house and there's like $1,000 in the bank account, but you still owe another 30, and then you got to wait 90 days to sell it or whatever. Yada, 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 pandemic,
Yep.
evictions, like you name it. Fire cancellations,
Yep.
some other wholesalers shanking your deal, offering them an extra $1,000, all kinds of stuff. Um, that's stressful.
Hmm.
But the why, a big enough why, and in
Yep.
my opinion, a why cannot be money. It has to be, what does the money represent? It has to be an emotional, like something really, really emotional to you.
Yeah.
That gets you motivated and energized enough to wake up at 5 a.m. and start dealing with all these problems.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I definitely recommend to people. And um, so just kind of fast forward along with my story. Once I joined Sub Two, 2021, 2020 or 2020 to 2021, my new partner and I started just doing a bunch of fix and flip because that was the time to like literally fix and flip because the market was just exploding. Interest rates were just, down, down, down because of the recession. And so right around this time, I was still at my full-time job at Luckstone and I was making great money, six figures, easy job. Um, and I am doing flipping and fixing the side. And after a few fix and flips, I see my bank account reflect my actual W-2 account. And after one flip, on this one flip, I made like $60,000. I was like, yeah.
That was
And I
6 months
was,
at the job.
yeah, I was like, but this time I was like, I probably like at least 2 to 3 years at this, or probably, yeah, 2 years at this new job, roughly a year and a half, 2 years. And I was looking at like my net wages as a W-2 worker. I was like making like $40,000 at this time. I'm like, dude, what the hell am I doing? Um, so after like the next two flips, I put in um uh my resignations to the job. And the funny thing is, this wasn't really what I was envisioning. What I was envisioning on how I quit my job was passive income will exceed my W-2.
Yeah.
But in this case, I had such a large lump sum of money in my account that I was confident enough to have that lump sum build me enough runway of just income
Yep.
to where I could quit my job and work off that money and then still build off on that.
Yeah,
And so,
that's similar to my story. We had I had a very comfortable job. Comfort is the enemy, or
yeah,
yeah, good's the enemy of great.
right.
Comfortable is the enemy of being great. And I was comfortable, unfortunately, for far too long. Worked at home, online sales, which gave me the flexibility to do real estate on the side. That was a blessing. But when they cut my pay in half,
Oh,
and basically said, "Hey, look, you gotta go all salary, which was low, or go 100% commission sales, which I'd graduated from to get where I was at." I'm like,
oh
and then on the side, we just sold two rentals um, for six figures, two of
wow.
them within a couple months of each other. And you start balancing that. It's like, hey, this has been good, but uh, I, I think I'm ready to go off on my own now. Did you get a little bit of enjoyment out of that, or were you a little scared handing that in?
It was an emotional roller coaster. It was a bit of both, right? It was like excitement, but also fear. Because like this is all I've kind of ever known.
Yeah,
It's kind of what I've always been taught. Get a
yeah,
job. I'm like, okay, but now I'm like, okay, but it's good to quit because I have all this money. Like I can do both.
yeah.
So
And you've got good proof of concept,
yeah,
showing, hey, like I've got the money, but I've also proven the ability to generate it.
yeah,
So you got the ability to make more money. All right, so you quit your job,
yeah.
and you have rentals at this point.
I do.
Okay.
So I quit my job. It was July 24th, 2021. Um, and after that, it was just, balls to the walls pretty much. We did about 20, probably 20 plus flips that year. Made a great amount of income. And then after that whole boom of interest rates, it shot back up. We started to switch our model into wholesaling virtually. And so we were just doing that with my team, and we were doing roughly about 15 all up to 30 deals a month in any given month, depending
Mhm.
on what areas we're targeting. We target Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, um, Pennsylvania, and then a little bit of Florida as
Mhm.
well. So I mean, my journey is quite, I guess, interesting per se. And now, I own 15 rentals. Um, Half of them are Airbnbs, the other half are long-term tenants. We own one commercial building where we have triple net lease, which is like the greatest thing on earth. I love the commercial side of things because you don't have to deal with any toilets or any emotional problems.
Is that the
On
41 unit you mentioned?
No, that's actually a syndication I'm a part
Okay.
of. That's in Buxton, North Carolina. This commercial unit is in where I reside in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
It's a like I'm a 3 unit kind of deal. And the tenant pays on time all the time, and he does
Those
all
are
of
truly passive. Like rental
yeah,
properties, they're sold as passive, but really they're just long-term wealth building plays. Like they're
yeah,
amazing wealth generators. But for
yeah,
passive income, unless you got like 100 of them,
yeah.
it's not really passive
It's
because
not.
100, $200 a month, it's not going to
Yeah,
much for you. And that's 100 to $200 a month if you buy it right and you're escroing for vacancy, repairs, and capex. So,
exactly.
but yeah, triple net leases, like
Yeah,
that's passive.
yeah,
And I have no experience in it. It's very interesting.
yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely passive when you just own the land. They're
yeah.
renting everything from you.
It's amazing. It truly is a blessing. We actually came across this particular commercial deal where funny enough, it was a distressed seller from a different wholesaler that gave us the lead because they didn't know how to deal with it because they're just dealing in residential. And we bought the property for $900,000, and the value of the seller, she didn't change her value for like I think 7 years. So she sold it at $900,000, and she is reselling it again this like in the pandemic for $900,000. We're like, dude, this is a steal. Um,
But wait, so she sold it to you for what she bought it for?
she sold. Oh, so in the past, sorry, I didn't really make this clear. In the past, she sold it to another buyer on a
Mm-hmm.
seller financing kind of structure, but the buyer kind of had to fell through because
Okay, so
of
she took it back over, and then she's
yeah,
selling you at the same valuation,
yep,
despite the market's
years,
obviously changed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, okay.
So we end up buying it. We got a bank to finance it, um, and we found a tenant that um, did all the renovations, and they are paying the taxes, and they're running their business. So super passive. We don't got to do anything. They hardly call us. They don't even call us at all for anything, and they pay on time. That gets amazing product. I recommend um, everybody that has an opportunity once they graduate from residential look into commercial. It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And definitely get educated. It's different.
It
Uh,
is.
Everything's different. Financing's different. Management's
Yeah.
different. I like it. Now I deal more in the residential commercial, which from financing standpoint, it's commercial, but it's still residential, and that's what you call large multifamily.
Uh-huh.
But it's just the wholesaling single family market. You probably can relate to this. Like you're dealing with squirrels. It's just it's a
Yeah.
dirty business. Like you got motivated sellers that like they don't even know their opinion on the weather at any given
Yeah.
moment, and then wholesalers themselves are interesting characters and
They are.
contractors and all this stuff. But you get into the commercial, large multifamily, it's very very professional. It's not that you
Mhm.
can't have snakes or squirrely people in that industry, but it's a lot more straightforward. At
Yeah.
least my experience so far.
It is. And like getting up to that commercial portion of it, I also started investing before buying that commercial building. I invested 30, probably no, close to $40,000 of education, just learning that side of the business too as well. And so
Was
with
that in
every
formal education, or did you go through like a mastermind program, or?
I went through Sharif Medawar.
Mhm.
He's out in Puerto Rico, and he owns like I would say like half of Old San Juan.
Yeah.
Um,
I want
and
to share it since we're on this, and I don't
yeah,
usually do this on the show.
sure.
There's a couple different, uh, which I have not taken these, but I have looked into them. But I want to share this. So a lady shared both of these to me. She was on one of the previous podcasts. 19 years of experience, land development. So Urban Land Institute, so ULI, and then Commercial Real Estate Development Association.
I know that one.
So both of those being very good educational communities and platforms, where they have courses and stuff that you can tap into, and it's very formalized, and they may have certifications and stuff too. But so folks that are looking into commercial, might want to check those out. I'm not endorsing them, but I did look into them, and they look pretty sharp. She has all of her team go through them. And I ran that through another guy who does retail strip centers and pad
Mm.
sites, and like your anchor locations and all that stuff. And he recognized those organizations. And there's one other one that he recommended. I forget what it is, but yeah, get
Mm.
educated.
Yeah, that's the best investment you could probably make. It's in yourself.
100%. So how'd you get started in transactional funding?
Oh, transactional funding. So that's a good question. So
And continue with that, but also define what transactional funding is for folks who don't quite know what that is.
sure. So transactional funding, basically, if you have, I'll just do an easy example because I think everybody can relate to this. If you're buying a house, you need to put some kind of earnest money deposit down to make sure that you, as a buyer, is very serious on buying this particular property. Now, as a wholesaler, you may not have, or you may have the funds to do a earnest money deposit. However, you might have multiple deals in the fire, and that might take away from your marketing efforts or your overhead efforts. And so, let's say your earnest money deposit is $5,000 to a property, and let's say you don't want to fork that up, which is totally fine. This is where I can help with that. So if you're looking for earnest money deposit for a property, I'm willing to fund that earnest money deposit as long as it's refundable, as long as that you have a study period of a certain amount of days, so I know that I'm able to get my deposit back. And how I get paid is more of a profit sharing model, like a joint venture. Since I'm coming up with the money, I usually command between $1,000 to $4,000 return back on top of that $5,000 once you either assign the property to another end buyer as a wholesaler, or if you decide to take it down, then I would get paid at closing. Or if you're looking to do a different kind of exit, like a hotel situation, then that would be kind of a different structure as far as repayment. But more or less, the same concept here is I can spot you the earnest money in return of a return on my end, like either $1,000 to $4,000, depending on
Yeah.
what we agree upon.
And
Um,
since it's not at least it doesn't seem like it's a traditional loan, like a hard money
yeah.
loan, because it's profit sharing. So now how do you set that up? Are you just doing a separate JV agreement with their entity, or are you having them carve out addendums to their entity that give you certain interest on the transaction? How does that work?
So basically, my partners and I, we just do a joint venture agreement between the two LLCs. And then also we have a personal guarantee for that funds with that joint venture agreement. On top of that, if it's a earnest money deposit, we have another document that we end up sending them. It's like an earnest irrevocable earnest money document where they're signing for the money that we are actually giving to escrow on their behalf. Um, so it's two forms of documents. That's just for the earnest money deposit. Now for gap funding is a little bit different, but more or less of the same. Joint venture, we put a second lien on the property if it closes. If it does a double close, then that lien will come off on the second close once everything is returned
Mhm.
plus interest or whatever it may be. So depending on the situation, will determine what kind of paperwork will be used on the transaction type.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a buddy of mine does the gap funding, and I collaborate with him. But this is a multifamily, large
Yep.
multifamily, where you've got to raise 5 million, maybe you raise four, but you need the other million to close, and you'll
Mhm.
finish raising it post closing. Where come in, loan the million, and it's a variation of interest, origination, and equity.
Yeah.
Kind of depends on the situation, but um, I like that model. Because it definitely is a like you. I've done a lot of flips. To
Yeah,
have that money out is taxing on cash flow, and cash flow or lack thereof is what kills businesses. So
yeah,
yeah, if you can minimize that to a certain point, then it can definitely help operations or help you grow.
most definitely. And I mean, like this type of lending, or I guess joint venture, I should say, kind of caters to smaller, I guess, smaller deals because not a hard money lender or a private money lender is going to spend their time to fund a $500 or $1,000 EMD or
Yeah.
$5,000 EMD. It just doesn't make any sense for them. So this is where this would be a good opportunity for people like wholesalers to kind of leverage. And most people, most lenders won't go into second position, period. That's just not how they operate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there is a caveat to that too, as well.
Yeah, love it. Well, these next four questions I ask everyone closing out. I
Well,
ask the same question. So we're gonna start off with, if you could give advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
so the advice I would give my 20-year-old self is that um can I give multiple advices or just one?
Hey, it's
Yeah. Okay,
you
cool.
answer how you want.
All right. Um I would give I would start to be more aware of my thoughts on how I um view certain things like be the observer of who you are in certain moments.
Hmm.
Um, I think a really good book that captures this idea is The Untethered Soul. Really good book. I recommend that to anybody that's on all walks of life. For real estate advice, um, follow when you're first starting out, network and always follow up with your leads because that's where the money's at. I didn't really believe in the follow up until I actually did the follow up. And those are the advices I would give to my
Well, you
younger
may have
self.
already answered this, but what book or books have greatly influenced your life?
So yeah, the book that I just mentioned, The Untethered Soul. Who Not How is an amazing
Great
book.
one.
Yep.
I just finished that one actually.
Oh, it's an amazing book. Right now I'm reading Buy Back Your Time. Um, that's also an amazing book. Um, the Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, also an amazing book.
Great book.
Um,
Did you read that or do it audible?
which one?
The Never Split the Difference.
I listened to the audiobook
Yeah,
multiple
yeah.
times.
So anyone wanting to get that book, highly recommend do the Audible version or the
Yeah.
audio version. It's just, you got to hear the tones.
Yeah, you definitely do. And I think that's about it. Those are the books I would recommend the most.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most influenced your life or most improved?
Yeah, good question. So one belief that I has greatly impacted my life is the power of creation and manifestation. Um, I come from a background from like, military, like rah, like, like masculinity. And so when I was presented this idea, I was very resistant and hesitant to it. And I firmly believe that the law of attraction, the law of creation and manifestation is something that's real. I've seen it happen with my business partner. He showed me so many different times, and I um, was very in disbelief and when it happened. And but then once I started to practice these things, it actually propelled my own success. Because words do have power to them, um, especially in your thoughts in your head. You have negative thoughts going through your head that affects you. You can also create what you don't want. Um, the true is opposite too as well. If you create things that will happen in your life, it will happen. Just you got to work hard or look for it long enough. So those are the things that have really impacted my life tremendously.
Love it. How can people reach out to you?
So I have an Instagram handle. My first name, Phillip, Phillip, Ty, middle initial and last name. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page too as well. Same thing, Phillip H. Ty. You can find me at Facebook. And those are the only two sources that I have. I don't know if you give my number out here. Is that totally fine as well?
That's up to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can reach me out at 804-366-3352. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. If you guys are in the area, I would love to hang out, talk to you, see how we can do business together or just shoot some stuff on real estate. And that's how you can reach me.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, Chris, for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. If you got any value out of this at all, please like, comment, subscribe, follow. I'd love to hear from you. And for more real estate related content, market observations, upcoming events, you can go to investedx.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. I promise you won't regret it. Thanks again.